Okay, love, we've got to talk about climate emergency. Okay, it's time. This is the do or die moment of us humans on the planet. Are we going to be like the dinosaurs or are we going to continue forward? You know, to face that it's very scary, especially if you go into helpless mode. But I want to assure you that if you go into active mode, you will make it through this the rest of your life anyway, with a feeling of peace and power and joy, because you'll be feeling like, oh, I came to this planet at a time when it was an extraordinary time in history, and I gave it my all. If you don't do anything, if you just are sort of like being a consumer and pretending nothing ever has to change and your life will never have to change, there'll be this underlying fear that will just keep building, and a depression and feeling of hopelessness that'll come after a while. So why not just jump right in? Okay, right now there are some things to do that will change the course of history. I had a dream the other night that told me you have enough time as a species if you all jump in now, because there's this evil force that wants it all to be over with, that wants to have stolen the humans from their own life. I'm sorry. And that's the force within us. That's the negative force. We have both positive and negative within us as humans, obviously, or we wouldn't have created this predicament. We have never seen the force of love, the power of love, really. When we unite all countries in one mind to save the human species and nature itself, and we all put our energies towards planting more trees and ending fossil fuels, going to zero emissions with our countries, this unified effort will be the evolution of human consciousness. This is possible now because we are a world community. Technologies, Facebooks, all these things, they have their downside with all the fake news, but they also have brought us together to see we are all able to connect with each other now. So there are a number of things for us to do, and if we do them with diligence, we're going to see the greatest evolution this planet has ever had in terms of human consciousness. Number one is to vote for the issues that matter. Okay, my vote is with Elizabeth Warren. I find that she's got a plan for everything that I care about, and there are strong plans. I am totally thankful for her, and you've got to get out and vote this time for what matters to you, because do you know it was only 23% of the population that voted for Baby Dump? It was only 23% of the population, and you have way more people who would never vote for him, who just didn't bother to vote. So you got to vote. That's number one thing, okay? Number two is civil disobedience. Civil disobedience is how every important movement around the world has actually had its impact. This is how Gandhi changed India. This is how Martin Luther King changed the rights of the African American people in America. This is how women got the vote. It's civil disobedience means you make people mad. You do something like you have to shut down a supermarket or a bridge or something, and you get arrested, and that gets headlines, and that happens enough consistently, and then politicians are on new footing, and new politicians come forward with a whole different agenda who represent the masses. So that's number two, civil disobedience. Number one, vote. Number two, civil disobedience. Now, this is the other thing. We've got to be really creative. We need to be willing to look at solutions that are not what we thought of before. And that's because we're in a very intense predicament. The predicament is that green energy, which is, of course, the direction we want to go. I mean, I'm a solar consultant. I'm all for it. It's not, the evolution of it is not complete yet. We don't have the batteries that really store the energy. So you get wind and solar putting huge amounts of energy onto the grid, and these big waves of energy that has, they've got to just, some states pay other states to take the energy because they don't know what to do. It's flooding the energy, flooding the grid. And then at other times, there's no energy coming. The wind has died down for weeks on end, and it's gray, and there's no sun. Now there's nothing. So the batteries are the part of the technology missing. We don't have it yet. And yet we have got to make this change to save the humans within the next 5 years. Everything's got to happen fast. So without the technology to go to zero emissions with the green power as we have created it so far, we've got to look at, well, who on the planet, anywhere, what country has actually succeeded in zero emissions? Well, guess what? The good news and the scary news is that Sweden has succeeded. What did Sweden do? Sweden got a whole bunch of bicycles, right? They got a whole bunch of solar, a whole bunch of wind, great. They got trains going and public transportation going, great. But Sweden's usage of energy went up, way up, not down, to get to zero emissions. How did they really do it? Since there's no batteries for any of that green power, they went nuclear. Yes, they went nuclear. And they were very meticulous about how they are dealing with the waste and how they are burying the waste. Now, there's a couple of things about this. So environmentalists have spent years, chaining themselves to bulldozers at nuclear plants to shut them down, and this is the worst thing in the world, but without realizing that it may be nuclear energy is the only thing that can save us as humans, because we've got to go to an energy source that is zero emissions, zero, and helps all the people of India who don't even have power, who say, look, you guys have been hogging the energy all these years, it's our turn. They're not about to go without electricity at this point. So now nuclear energy, there are some misconceptions that we do need to face if we're going to realize that this may be our way forward until we have better green technology or more complete green technology. One thing is that the waste of coal, it goes out, it spews out. I've been reading about this, and it kills so many people. It is killing the whole planet. It's about to kick us off the planet. It's killing all the animals, the trees. It's like this, all the men, the people who work in those coal plants die of cancer, lung cancer, on and on and on, the toxins from coal. In the couple of meltdowns that happened from nuclear energy, actually, nobody died. Nobody. We're still waiting to see the effects, but it's years and years later. Who died was from when there was a nuclear bomb. Now that's really different. And what we keep thinking is that the making of a nuclear power plant is the same technology as making a nuclear bomb. And it turns out they're not the same process, and they're not the same tools. And when you set that up, that infrastructure up of nuclear energy, you are not setting up a place where then nuclear bombs can be made. So that's a really huge difference to make, to understand the terrible atrocities for Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Those are not the same dangers when you set up a nuclear power plant. In fact, you can set up a nuclear power plant inside a coal factory and use its infrastructure, and you don't even have to rebuild a whole new structure. You just put the source at the center of all that to be nuclear instead of the coal. So this is what other countries are doing. There's more countries now following this example. Is it Denmark, Sweden and Denmark? Finland. So they did this. They weren't even really necessarily thinking about the climate crisis when they did this, because they did it a while back. They were just thinking efficiency, because this is the other thing. You have a small country and you have the waste. So the waste from coal is like, for 1 year, one city, it's like trains and trains and trains, millions and millions of tons of waste, right? That go on and on and on, like miles long. Where are you going to put it all? The waste from one city for 1 year for nuclear power fits on one truck. it's tiny. It's like the size of an apple. And the thing is, we are always being radiated. We actually can handle a lot of more radiation than we realize. So when they put these, the Swedish people take these things on a truck, incarcerated in a lot of protection, then bring them way far away from civilization to some, I guess, some remote island in I don't know where, that they've bought for bringing their nuclear waste, and they bury it in a cave underground with inside cases, and then they create a way to be able to check on that over the years. It's a lot safer than spewing fossil fuels, coal into the air, which we know you do just another year or two of it and we're toast. There's no planet, there's no humans, there's no life on Earth. You've killed off too many organisms and too many people for us to keep going. Wow. So that's the thing. We're in this thing where nothing's perfect, but we got to look at solutions. And what encouraged me about that was, well, that is actually a solution. That's actually something that can be done. You can put nuclear power plants inside of all the coal plants, use the infrastructure, and go down to zero emissions and do it fast. And then you can create all kinds of jobs in wind and hydro and solar, and pay the scientists to start researching how do we create these batteries that are going to store the clean green energy. And we will come to that answer. We will come. So here you are, hearing it from me. It is time that we are shouting fire, fire, fire. Fire everywhere. Fire in California, fire in Australia. And we've got to get out of the fire, except we can't leave the planet. So the only way to get out of the house is to change the fact that the house is a tinderbox until we stop putting out all of these fossil fuels. We've got to shut down the coal plants. So that means who you vote for is got to be somebody who's tough and strong and willing to stand up to the big companies, because at this point it's just all about money. These companies don't care. They're going to pretend that climate change doesn't exist and none of this is necessary, just so that they can keep their bottom line of capitalism. So when you come back to the divine feminine, and the divine feminine says, wait a second, the bottom line is not money, capitalism. Money is not the bottom line. The bottom line is existence. To be or not to be. To do or not to be. We've got to do. We've got to transform our each of us, our speech patterns. We got to talk about this now. We got to bring it up with people we know. We got to be braver in what we share with our friends. We've got to be willing to be the bummer at the party, who talks about something so scary. And also use your mind positively. Use it positively. See the new Green Deal. The new Green Deal that Andrea Ocasio-Cortez has been talking about. It's a co-created vision of life from here on out, where we fund science, we fund the arts, we fund housing, we have universal health care, and we have equal rights for women and minorities and people of color. We embrace immigrants, because we're all immigrants on this earth at this point. With climate change, everybody's got to be able to move fluidly in order to be safe and to find family. It's a whole different vision. It's not the vision of us against war against the bad guys. It's an embracing, communicative human family where women are going to be the leaders now. So please do have faith. You can vote for Elizabeth Warren, and she will win. And you can, all the women are winning right now, because it's in the divine knows to come back from patriarchy. We gave patriarchy a chance for a couple thousand years and it didn't work. Okay, it made a lot of war, and it made a lot of pain in the family, and it was a lot of women beating and child molesting and pornography. And why is it? Is it because men are intrinsically bad? No, it's because men are meant to be the servants of the feminine divine. That's true. Men are meant to serve the feminine within themselves and within the heart of life, the feminine of the planet. And if they don't serve the feminine, they have nothing to serve. They end up just going to war randomly, because they're meant to be heroes, they're meant to be servants and protectors, but not protecting anything really. All they can think of to do is to go to war. But true protection of the feminine is to join with her, okay, and to listen to her. What is she saying? What is the earth saying? What are the women saying? Women are saying, we are one family. All children are my children. This climate emergency can be dealt with, but that is by saying that the big companies are not our presidents. They are not our kings. They are not the ones who we will allow to destroy life on earth. Okay, the 1% do not deserve to be protected, who take everybody's money. They do not have a right to do that. They got there by robbing people. They can share their bounty and still have free enterprise. Free enterprise with some bounds that say the bounds are what you pay your workers, safety for the environment, and how your company operates. Okay, so become eloquent. Become eloquent on this. Don't be afraid to be eloquent. And even if you don't know everything, just keep reading and listening and learning, because this is it, baby. We've got to all talk about it. It's not off limits anymore. For 10 years, I knew about this, about the climate emergency, and I wouldn't talk about it because every time I did, well, I did actually, I was just the outsider at the party ruining everybody's, I didn't want to talk about it. So I got myself into solar, and I'm glad I did that. But it's not enough now, because now we're talking about designing a new way of existing as humans on the planet. That the only way through right now is the beautiful co-creation of a complete new picture that includes nature and women. Why do I say women have to be in the picture? Because women are the ones running everything really in the home. They're feeding everybody. If the women aren't fed, if they can't feed their children, if they're not safe, nothing will happen. Nothing will be able to happen. Nothing will be worth happening. Why should the humans even exist if the women can't feed their children? Right? So get with it, guys. Get with it. Get behind the women. Okay? Serve the women's purpose. The woman's purpose is life. The man's purpose tends to be death. What war can I go to next? What challenge and competition can I, express my autonomy? No, this is not about autonomy anymore. This is about what's that word? It's interdependence. Interdependence. And the humbleness to realize that we are interdependent with nature, and that rivers have a right to exist. Mountains have a right to exist. That's a different way of looking at things, isn't it? That an animal species has a right to exist. That humans don't have a right to just kill off all the elephants because they want the land. What a different way. What a different way. But what's beautiful in this new way is that we were all brought here on this planet. We can all be here together. It's just there's a lot of humans. If you think about how many more humans there are suddenly, it took all of creation, all of millennia to get to 1 billion people. And then within, 200 years, it turned to 6 billion people. That's an explosion, So there must be a reason for that. Why Creator allowed humans to be so many of us here. And if we're going to be here together, now we've got to combine our living with our relationship with each other and nature and woman. We've got to come back to woman, divine feminine values. So when we're calling climate emergency, and we go out there and we start to sing our songs and beat our drums and do civil disobedience and vote for women, you're going to have a feeling sometimes of incredible elated hopefulness, and at other times of just like your hopes dashed, like nothing's possible. But if you will invoke the divine along the way, call upon the bigger forces of creation to join with you in your song, join with you in your march, give you strength when you have to go to jail, give you strength when you put out videos and you're afraid that later on you might be, you know, harassed for what you said. Just the fact that you are following through on standing up for creation and the small invisible voices of the fairies and the plant spirits and the children who are yet to be born, who deserve a life on this planet, you will have a joy that starts to bubble up within you, because you know you're doing the right thing, and you know you were put here for a reason, and you're following through on that reason by dedicating your talents towards getting that message out there. It's an emergency, and we can tackle this in unity. Okay. Much love, darling. Love life. Love it in its uniqueness and its preciousness and its tenuous vulnerability. Love the moments we have to be here still. You know, what a miracle. What a miracle that I can reach you through this media, and through this time warp, through this vortex into the, you know, the simultaneous worlds going on. Let's call upon the parallel universe where we were wiser and we made totally different decisions, and we did not decimate the Native Americans, and we did not enslave the African Americans, and we did not keep women's values out of the picture, and we did not burn all the witches, all the women who were healers. We did not use fossil fuels. We went for green energy right away, and we did listen to our scientists, and we did listen to the women, and we did come together as world nations. What a different parallel universe, calling on the opening of that universe right now. Okay, through this video, that portal opens from the parallel universe of health and sanity and wisdom to pour into this strange dimension here that needs so much healing. And may we pull us up. Pull us up right now into that other dimension. I call on you, Goddess Divine. All right, here we are, calling on the Goddess Divine, Divine Feminine Love, coming home to her.